Have you ever noticed that some thoughts seem to come back over and over, as if they're stuck in your mind? Do you wonder why sexual thoughts take up so much space in your life? It's not just a matter of physical desire. It goes much deeper than that. In this video, I'm going to explain why you think so much about sex and what that reveals about you. We'll dive into psychology, biology, and Stoic wisdom to understand these mechanisms. Stay until the end, because in the second part I'll share 2 powerful solutions to help you regain control over your mind. If you're ready to understand and change, let's begin. First part. Why do you always think about sex? Why does sex take up so much space in your mind? The first reason is biology. Sexual desire is one of the most basic human drives. It's deeply embedded in our brain because it's directly linked to the survival of the species. But today, this drive is constantly stimulated by the environment around us. Think about all the ads, social media, movies, and TV shows. Sex is everywhere. Your brain is constantly bombarded by these stimuli. Here's how your brain reacts. The reward system in your brain, which is responsible for releasing dopamine, is activated every time you're exposed to sexual images or thoughts. Dopamine is a chemical that makes you feel good, and your brain becomes addicted to that pleasurable sensation. Every time you think about it, you unconsciously seek to recreate that dopamine release, and that's why these thoughts keep coming back. But it's not just biology. The environment we live in amplifies this phenomenon. We're exposed to sexual images all the time, whether online, on TV, or even on the street. Your brain is literally programmed to respond to these stimuli. It's like someone is constantly playing with your reward system, and that's where things get complicated. But there's another dimension, psychology. Often sexual thoughts become a way of escaping. When you're stressed, bored, or feeling lonely, these thoughts appear as an easy solution to make you feel better. It's a quick way to distract your mind from deeper problems you prefer to avoid. You may have noticed that when you're going through difficult times or uncomfortable emotions, these thoughts tend to appear more frequently. Why? Because your mind is looking for immediate relief. And what's more immediate than a sexual thought? It's quick, it's pleasurable, and it allows you to distract yourself from what's stressing or worrying you. However, the more you use these thoughts to escape your emotions, the more they take control of your mind. It's like an escape route that eventually becomes a mental prison. You think you're in control of the situation, but in reality, it's these thoughts that are controlling you. And this can negatively impact not only your concentration, but also your relationships. Think about it. If you're always focused on sex, you start to see others through that single lens. It affects how you interact with people, especially women. You can lose the ability to create deep and meaningful connections because you're always drawn back to that immediate desire. Stoic wisdom can help us understand this. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius taught us that our thoughts shape our reality. If you let these thoughts dominate, they will end up shaping who you are. Your mind is powerful, and it has the ability to create or destroy, depending on the thoughts you nurture. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So, why do you constantly think about sex? The answer is a complex mix of biology, psychology, and environmental influence. But the good news is that you have the power to change that. In the next part, I'll show you 2 powerful solutions based on Stoic wisdom and modern psychology to help you take control of your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the second part, and leave a like if this video has already helped you understand why these thoughts persist. See you very soon in the second part. Second part, 2 solutions to regain control of your sexual thoughts. The first solution is inspired by Stoic wisdom, mental detachment. The Stoics taught that we are not our thoughts, and that it's essential to observe them without attaching ourselves to them. If a sexual thought arises, you don't have to follow it, nor do you have to give it importance. Here's a practical exercise. Imagine your thoughts as clouds floating in the sky. These thoughts pass through your mind, but you can choose not to hold on to them. When a sexual thought appears, instead of pushing it away or feeding it, simply observe it without judgment. This might seem difficult at first because your instinct is often to react immediately, either by resisting the thought or giving in to it. But with practice, you'll learn to let it pass. This is where the Stoic concept of ataraxia comes into play, which means peace of mind. Ataraxia is the state where you are at peace internally, regardless of what's happening around you or in your mind. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, believed that while we can't control what happens externally, or even the thoughts that cross our minds, we can control how we react to those thoughts. To better understand this, imagine you're sitting by a river. Your thoughts, including sexual ones, are like leaves floating on the water. They pass in front of you, but you don't have to jump into the river to catch them. In fact, you can stay seated on the bank, watch the leaves float by, and choose not to react. That's detachment. It's not about repressing your thoughts or desires, but rather about not giving them too much importance. It's a conscious choice to not let them control your mind. Of course, this takes practice. At first, you might feel that you're constantly drawn back to these thoughts. But every time you make the effort to observe them without reacting, you strengthen your ability to let them go. Gradually, you regain a sense of control, and these thoughts become less and less intrusive. Another helpful trick is to add a moment of pause when these thoughts arise. When you feel a sexual thought entering your mind, take a few seconds to breathe deeply and refocus. This brief moment of reflection can give you the perspective needed to consciously decide to let the thought pass without acting on it. Breathing is a powerful tool for calming your mind and preventing immediate reactions. The Stoics often used breathing techniques to stay grounded and calm in the face of emotions and thoughts. It's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Epictetus. The second solution is to reprogram your brain by creating positive habits. Your mind works like a muscle. The more you use certain mental pathways, the stronger they become. If you want to weaken sexual thoughts, you need to introduce new habits that allow you to focus on something else and train your brain not to depend on those thoughts. Every time a sexual thought arises, make it a habit to immediately replace it with a positive action. This could be something as simple as getting up and taking a few steps, focusing on an important task, reading a book, or even meditating. The idea is to redirect your attention to something constructive that helps you move forward in life, rather than letting that thought take over your mind. Why is this important? Because every time you choose a positive action, you're literally changing the structure of your brain. This is called neuroplasticity. Your brain can reprogram itself based on the habits you instill in it. The more you replace these thoughts with positive actions, the more your brain will associate these moments of temptation with constructive, not destructive behaviors. Let's take a concrete example. If you notice that sexual thoughts tend to come up when you're alone or inactive, try planning activities that keep you busy doing things you enjoy. The more you fill your time with productive activities, the less space your mind will have for these intrusive thoughts. For instance, if you enjoy sports, work out. If you like reading, immerse yourself in a good book. The idea is to keep yourself mentally and physically occupied so that you redirect your energy toward something more productive. The Stoics firmly believed in personal discipline. They taught that true freedom comes from self-mastery. By reprogramming your brain with positive habits, you exercise that discipline. This process takes repetition and patience, but the more you do it, the stronger your mind becomes against sexual thoughts and unnecessary distractions. Another technique you can try is to keep a journal. Write down every time you successfully replace a sexual thought with a positive action. This will allow you to track your progress and see how you're gradually gaining control over your mind. Writing about your feelings can also help you better understand the triggers for these thoughts and anticipate when they might arise. To conclude, you don't have to be a slave to your sexual thoughts. Understanding why they arise is the first step. But what's even more important is applying these two solutions to regain control. Mental detachment and creating positive habits will allow you to reclaim your inner freedom and focus on what truly matters in your life. Remember, this takes practice and perseverance. But with every small step, you'll get closer to a calmer, more controlled mind. If this video has been helpful to you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share it with those who might benefit from it. See you soon for more wisdom and motivation.